The Pete Carroll Show. The first word from the Seahawks head coach every Monday at 9:30 with Mike Salk. Brought to you by Pizza Hut on 710 ESPN Seattle.
We are waiting on Coach Carroll, who should join us here any moment. Mike Salk Show with Pete Carroll on 710 ESPN Seattle. 710sports.com. I know we get a lot of people who come in now during or from the 710 Sports app, so thank you for listening. We started 6 a.m. every weekday. We're here from 6 to 10, and Matt Hasselbeck will be with me tomorrow at 9 o'clock for the whole 9 o'clock hour. He is every Wednesday. So if you just jump in here for the Pete Carroll Show, A, I don't blame you, but B, come visit at other times, and certainly come listen to Matt tomorrow. His storytelling is always great, and by all accounts, a great moment. I wasn't there last night, so I didn't get to see all of the Hasselbeck Ring of Honor ceremony, but Justin Moore, I know you were both there, and said he was fired up, and the crowd loves Matt, so it must have been a pretty cool back and forth.
It was awesome. He even told the Beastquake story. He's like, "Oh, we all did that wrong," and then he went into, I'm trying to remember. He started calling out every player that basically he'd played with from that whole era. It was really special, and you remember, and we talk to him every Wednesday. So like hearing him in your headset now once a week is different than seeing him fired up on the field, Matt.
Yeah,
He's really a really special guy.
I like what Pete said yesterday. I was listening to the pregame interview, and he said Matt was just a fun guy to compete with, like to be on his team, and I'm sure that's true. He just seems like he'd be a fun guy who understands that leadership role, the quarterback role, and how to go to battle together. So I thought that comment made sense from Pete, and I wasn't necessarily surprised to hear it based on everything we've seen and our opportunities to get to know Matt over the years. It does seem like he'd be a fun guy to get to go into battle with every week. So, yeah, it makes sense. Coach Carroll joining me right now. Hi, Coach. Good morning.
Morning, Mike. What's up?
Well, we were talking about Matt and just that halftime ceremony. We can get into the game as well. I know you obviously didn't get a chance to see it. You were a little busy during halftime, but I heard you yesterday in the pregame show with Rabes talking about Matt and just how much you seem to enjoy your year together with him.
Yeah, he was really fun to compete with. Really, really smart, and the experience had allowed him a perspective, where he could really handle the games well and in the settings and the setbacks and all the issues. He was an easy guy to work with and navigate our way through the first season.
We were talking to Tyler Columbus last year. He was telling a story of how when he first got here, the first thing Matt did is he invited him over to his house for dinner, and he was just so taken aback that this, kind of backup guard who had been around a bunch of different teams, that the quarterback had taken that level of interest in him right off the bat. That seems unique to me.
Yeah, it is. That is a unique gesture. However, Matt, he got it. He'd been raised well. Coach Mike, had done a great job bringing him up and making him understand the game and the role of the quarterback and how it all fits. And Matt benefited from those lessons and was a really well-rounded competitor.
Well, let's get to what happened last night. Obviously, didn't end the way you wanted it to. What did you see watching the game?
I saw two teams that had pretty much dedicated to taking care of the football and making sure that that the game was a close game. We played that game to be close, and the way it worked out really, I know I would bet Sean would pretty much say the same thing. That they were trying to do the same thing. Conditions and all that taken into account, that weren't a factor, but it kind of came out like we thought. We just needed to finish it and make a couple plays at the end to get it done. There's always plays throughout the game that in a game that close, every penalty and everything becomes amplified in its significance, so that was the game we were ready to win, and unfortunately we couldn't get it done at the end.
Was there one of those plays that stands out?
No, we talk about 4 or 5 of them. There's a couple penalties in there that happened that changed situation. There was a huge play, Mike. I don't know if you recognize it or not. There's a 4th and 1 play, and they jump off sides and make the first down. And that's a huge difference in what happens in that segment of the game. That just shouldn't happen. There was 4 guys that jumped, and it was as clear as a bell, and anybody could have seen it and all that. That's a significant moment where we out-execute them, really, in the moment. We didn't move, and they did, and we don't get the benefit of it.
What'd you say?
But there's just a lot of stuff. There's other ones, too.
What'd you say to the team afterwards?
Trying to deal with it, Mike. It's frustratingly similar, and that there's chances. These games are so close. The chances to win these games. You look at our whole schedules like that, and as you go through it, with the overtime games, and that's just like an overtime setting right there as well. And we just have to make the right choice, make the right call on my part, and fit it together so that we can put our wins on the board. And so unfortunately, we're struggling with this record right now. I can't even stand the thought of it.
Yeah, a 2-5 is not something that I'm sure you're used to. I don't know how many times you've seen a record like this. What headspace?
So the last time I was 2-5, it was my first season at USC.
Wow.
I think that was the first year, and then we turned it around from there and never looked back. But that's 20 years, 20-something years. So, yeah, it has been a long time.
It's an unfamiliar taste. I'm sure it doesn't taste good at all to see a record like that associated with your team. But where is the collective headspace at, for lack of a better word? Where is your team
battling. Yeah, we have to keep battling because it's so close. We have to just keep clawing and scratching, and we got to keep building the game around around Geno and making sure that he can function at a high level. That's really the one of the big issues. It's something that you have to deal with, and that's why we have to run the ball as much as we're doing it and trying to keep him moving forward and making good positive plays. He's competing his tail off and doing everything he can to do that.
How would you assess Geno's game right now?
He's been solid. We haven't turned the football over to speak of, other than that last play of the Pittsburgh game. That's a phenomenal accomplishment. To not turn the ball over and give ourselves a chance again. We're +1 again. And not win a game, which just totally goes against all of the stats we've ever lived with. So he's managing the game well. I would like him to get the football out and be more open to throw the ball away. And we talked about it in the locker room after the game, and sometimes those situations happen so fast, and that to make that declaration to give up on the play is something that it takes experience, and the experience for Geno right now, it's not quite settled in the way he needs to be satisfied with. I got to throw the ball away. We got to punt the football, and there's nothing wrong with that. And we took 2 or 3 sacks last night that we shouldn't have taken.
Well, and is there some specific direction given around that part of the field, that I don't know if you call it the high red zone or whatever that sort of 22 to 30 yard line part of the field is, where you're in field goal range and a sack ends up moving you back? How does that part of the field affect play calling and the coaching of a quarterback?
Well, it's a situation that we talk about a lot, So this is not unfamiliar stuff. This is the field awareness. He's, we're making the reminders, as the play call is getting set to go in. The coaches are all. I can just hear the echoes of the guy saying, hey, "We're in field goal range." Remind him we're in field goal. Russ was on that topic, working the sidelines. Remind him. Which we had already done, but he was reminding us too, because that's how significant an awareness he has of it. And so we were trying to make sure that Geno would hold that too. It did happen a couple times to us where we would like to have just sailed the ball out of the end zone.
Are there plays that you can and can't call at that part of the field because of the risk of taking the sack, versus plays you want to run because it's an opportunity to maybe not get into the red zone and have to deal with the compressed field? I would think it'd be a challenging spot for a play caller.
Yeah, I kind of think it's more the plays you should call. You do call. You like the ball out on rhythm. You want to make sure that the quarterback has good choices. You're not holding the football to get somebody open. Those are the things that you would avoid. So yeah, you do want to protect the quarterback with the call, in a sense. I think that's what you're asking. Yes.
Is Geno your quarterback next week?
Sure. Yeah, he is, and we're counting on him to just keep getting better and us to play better around him.
I heard you talking about Russ last night, and it's an obvious question. How much the team misses its starting quarterback and everything Russell has meant to this team over the course of the last decade. And I heard you say that you wouldn't have been here as long without him, and I think it's a natural coach-quarterback kind of conversation. But what is that relationship like between a coach and a franchise quarterback, and some of that, I don't want to say dependency, that doesn't sound quite right, but just some of that reliance on each other to have success?
Well, I've always looked at, so much so, I've always looked at this relationship as the crucial relationship, so much so that when the first time I can remember outside the facility and Russ and I are shooting hoops and I'm telling him he's going to be the starter, addressing that issue, that this is going to be between you and I, to hold this thing together for a long time. We're going to have to work together and think alike and operate on a really high level so that we can maintain the balance and the continuity and the stability that a program needs if you're going to be good for a long time. And so, I mean, that started right in the first conversation almost with us. That was kind of like our initial, meeting of the minds. So, I'm making the point that how crucial his play has been in our success. We've done a lot of winning and done a lot of great things here, and he's been right in the middle. He ain't the only one that did it, and I would never, say that in that regard. But without him and his mentality, it would have been really hard to be as successful as we've been, and I don't mind giving him that credit. And the quarterback deserves that kind of credit because they're going to also receive the criticism too, It's a remarkably, extraordinarily difficult role to play in sports and in this game in particular. They're so demanding that, I'm just trying to amplify really how people should understand, the dynamic and the magnitude of this position.
Well, and it strikes me that two of his best skills fit seemingly with the style of game you want to play. His efficiency and accuracy throwing the ball, making good decisions seems to fit well with a running game and a balanced attack. And his ability to capitalize in the 2-minute drill late in games seems to fit well with a lot of the close games that your teams tend to play.
Yeah, and I think that's just an approach to the game. I think if you've been in this game long enough, you realize that there's certain aspects of it that you have to attend to and respect, and that's where the ability to maintain possession of the football is such a big deal, and we make such a big deal about it. Russell's been a great decision maker over the years, and understanding that, and that's why we've been able to win, and that's why we've been in the games and at the end and had chances to win in the end. Then you take the next element of it, that he's a magnificent competitor under those kinds of circumstances, and has always been able to find a way to be have a positive impact. That's why he's won so many of those games, and all of that fits all together.
The other person who now this year enters into that equation is the offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron. How would you assess where he's at 7 games into his play calling and coordinating career here?
Well, he's already been through the spectrum. Having your starting quarterback, having a high-powered offense going, and being able to score fast and strike and all that, and putting it together, and then losing that element, and having to deal with how you play. So I think you have a really good example. Sean Payton's a great football coach, and he's been successful and great for a long time. Look what he's done with his style of play compared to what he used to be. I mean, he's playing just like we're playing, and he's been playing that way the whole season. And he made a change to realize who he's playing with and build a team around it. And he's done a really nice job being successful. And he's played to his defense, he's played to special teams, and it's what you should do in this circumstance when you've got a quarterback that's new, and he's got he's got a growing cycle to go through. You've got to work with them and take care of them. And look at all the young quarterbacks around the league right now. Look how hard it is on them. These guys are freaking struggling, man. It's a challenge, and so we have to adapt the game to fit the makeup of your players, and that's what you see. So Shane's been right in the middle of all that. So your question, he's had to make all of that kind of shift already in his early time calling plays, and I think he's doing a really good job.
So one of the questions we get about that style, and I think I understand a lot of it, and we've talked about it a lot over the years, but when you don't have a Russell Wilson to be in that 2-minute offense, the clutch player, the franchise quarterback, everything that Russ has been, do you need to find other ways to not put a backup quarterback into the spot where you're relying on them in a 2-minute drive at the end of games? Are there things you can do in the first 58 minutes or so to avoid that spot?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly the challenge. That's it. That's what it is. You can't play to, everyone wants to see the ball thrown and you want to throw it all over the yard. And, we got to turn them loose. Well, no, you turn them loose. You turn them loose to the limitations that the experience it brings that to the game for that guy. And so we all have to figure that out. And you have to play. If you want to win a football game, you can't play to what you want to be. You got to play to what you need to be, and work that out in play calling and structure, use of personnel, and all those things. And that's what we're tasked with.
What does that mean, what you need to be? I was expecting you to say you have to play to what you are, but what does that mean, you have to play to what you need to be?
Well, it's even more than what you are. Go back to what the game calls for. You have to take care of it. You got to make sure that you manage it and you play it well and you play it clean and clear, and you don't give the other team the opportunity. So you need to take care of the football. You need to keep the game moving. You need to not put your guys in vulnerable positions that they're not prepared for, or that that they're not ready for. And so that's in a really broad way. I'm not even talking about our season, just in a broad way of looking at the game. And the guys that manage that the best will be the most consistently successful.
Your defense allows just 13 points yesterday. Does it feel like they've turned a corner?
There's no doubt. There's no doubt. This defense has turned the corner. It started a month ago, and we started winning on third down and started making the stops in the key situations and coming through. And I mean, look at the goal line last night. This team hadn't been stopped yet. Then we stopped them on the goal line to get to keep them at 3. In that first sequence down there, they're playing consistent. The line of scrimmage is solid. The corners are playing well. The movement is good on the defense. We've got to continue to develop our pass rush to cause the problems on the quarterback, and so we're working at that. Our front 3 guys last night, Monet, Al Woods, and Puna, they played great football last night. They were sensational. But those guys, they also had to rush the passer a bunch of times, and they're more. They're built to stop the running game and play that line of scrimmage really tough, and that's what we called for them to do, to match what the Saints were doing. They played really well. So I think you can completely see us turning. And I go back, I said it, I think last night, that just look at the last 4 weeks of third down play. And it's so significant in how the games go and how you can control getting the ball back to your offense and keeping the other people off the field. And we have really turned it. And so I'm expecting that they're going to be a big part of the second half of the season.
What kind of pressure does a guy like Kamara put on your team? Because he seems like you can use him in so many different ways. How challenging is he to deal with over 60 minutes?
Yeah, he's kind of the ultimate of what you want on offense, because he is such an effective runner. He does have the ability to strike the fear that he can bust it, and make a big play. So you really have to be disciplined and strict. But then he goes to the passing game when you space him out, and he was so effective last night. And we matched him up. We thought we had a really good matchup with him. Ryan was on him, a good part of the time, and he was better than we needed him to be. We had to go ahead and go further. We doubled him up in the second half and to try to take him out of the game, and which it worked out fine. But he's an incredible player, and so there's nobody that's much better than him because he's so multi-purpose.
Are there more opportunities for your defense to be more aggressive? And I don't entirely understand the scheme of it, obviously. I'm not a football coach, never played at a high level. You and I have talked about that many times, and I know you're aware. But are there ways, in my understanding of the scheme is that it's, don't get beat deep, make sure that you don't give up the big play. Are there opportunities in games to be more aggressive and come up the field more and take away more of the underneath stuff, even at the risk of the occasional big play?
Yeah, well, a little bit of what let's talk a little bit of football. A little bit what you're calling on is you play in zone, you play man-to-man is part of it. And are you willing to play man-to-man coverage and play one-on-one football with teams, and then where you can take a guy away. I think the common fan would think, well, why don't you just double these guys? Well, there's a lot of commitments you have to make to do stuff like that, and sometimes last night was a key illustration. We had to double the guy. He was that good on that night, and so we did. And so that's the second half was a lot of that, But yeah, the one thing that you're calling for is that can you go to zero coverage, meaning that there's no safety deep and add another guy into the front? You can. And when you do that, you expose yourself to bigger plays. And, we've been a pretty strong, deep end defense for years and years and years. We're really solid back there, and we're doing that again. We're not allowing the big play. That's part of it. It starts there. if teams can score from a long ways out, you're lousy. You stink, so you have to start somewhere. So that's where we started, and it goes right back to the front, and you got to stop the running game. Last night we stopped the running game and owned it last night, and so that's why the game is a 13-10 game. That's what you saw. I mean, we took care of the deep end, we took care of the running game, and then we fought it out the rest of the way. And unfortunately, we needed a couple more sacks. I'll just take the sack that we got and get rid of the penalty, and the game would have been a little bit different. So it was that close, and it was a well fought, well battled game, and frustrating for us that we are where we are.
The DK play was pretty phenomenal. I mean, first series of the game, just again, his athletic freakiness, and then combine it with what I assume is some pretty great and improving technique. You don't see plays like that very often in the NFL.
No, that was an extraordinary play. It really was. And it's really great for the fans to see him get to run like that, for 80 yards, and see that guy just roar down the sidelines and show what he has, and phenomenal physical moment in that play, that he shakes the DB, and he's a great DB. Marshawn Lattimore is as good as you get in the league, and he's been winning like crazy all season long. To get off to that kind of start again, it was a great throw. Protection was perfect. The throw was perfect, and then the finish was perfect by DK. So it was a good moment.
He sure seems to make other people mad in a way that I can't recall any other wide receiver I've ever seen.
He's kind of a magnet for it. You're right. Everybody, guys get worked up, with their opportunity to match him up. I thought DK was extraordinarily on last night. He was so composed, so poised. You saw how physical he was in a number of plays, and he look how far he's come in this season. He's been trying to figure it out, how to do it, and he's so bright. I thought that was an extraordinarily well executed job by him last night.
So it seemed like he sort of disappeared for a while though after that play, and is the great cat. Like how does a player of DK's magnitude and just physical stature kind of go away for a while during a game?
Well, that's just happened. He was involved with the calls and in opportunities to get the ball, and it just didn't get there. We got knocked around and chased around a little bit back on with QB, and so we didn't get the ball to him. We always want to. We're trying. The whole game plan is to get he and Tyler, and really Gerald involved in the throwing game, and but we threw the ball 20-something times, and that's part of it, unfortunately.
We mentioned the record 2-5. I found myself looking through the standings today, and I was surprised that this thing is not over. I mean, there are a lot of teams. There's only 6 teams in the conference with more than 3 wins, and 7 teams from the conference are going to make the playoffs this year.
Yeah, I know, and we've already taken a look at that, of course. And you have to just hold on and hold on to the hope of it that you're going to get it turned in the games. All of a sudden, these games go the other way. I'll go back. Fans don't remember this, but in our Super Bowl season, I think there was 8 or 9 games that were like, right down to the nub, within a touchdown, 3 points here, overtimes, all that. And those games went in the proper direction for a great season. That's how it goes sometimes. And but they're often so close. And so, unfortunately, I would love to have had Russ finish these last 3 games. Just give me him in the fourth quarter, and let him see what he could do. And that's the magic that we've watched, and that's what this program and our fans have counted on, and I, myself included. We've all counted on that to happen. And so now we have to help Geno get in that opportunity and come through with it, and then we start building from there. And this is a great week to do that. I'm looking at like this is the start of the second half is this week. We got to go.
Injury updates kind of heading into that. Marquise Blair.
Marquise Blair. He had a patella injury, and so that his kneecap got fractured, and so he's going to have to get that cleaned up.
You think you get Damian Lewis back or Darrell Taylor back this week?
They should be. They were so close this week, that both those guys should make it back. It's a bit of a short week, but I'm counting on both those guys to make it. I'll be surprised if they don't.
What'd you make of Rashad in his first game back? I had predicted 100 yards. It didn't quite work out. He needed 75 carries, I think, to get to 100 yards yesterday, the way things were going. But what did you make of his first time back in there?
I think he's just getting started. It's just he didn't get enough space to get rolling. Had a couple tough plays, where we didn't hit the line of scrimmage very well as far as setting it up for his spacing. we just need to get him going. I think we saw Alex make some extraordinary plays to get 4 and 5s. The line of scrimmage was hard. This was one of the best rushing defenses we'll face all season, and they were. It just happened. We needed to run it. They knew we needed to run it, and they're really good at it. We weren't able to get the edge of it. So we rushed for 90 yards instead of 130 or 40.
Their middle linebacker's pretty good.
He's really good. He's a fantastic player. I had lost contact with the fact that he's been playing for almost 10 years. Davis, he was a fantastic player again last night.
Pete, thank you. It is always good to talk to you after these games, and yeah, there's a lot of emotion that runs hot, certainly with the fans, and challenging. 0-3 at home is unfamiliar to this fan base, and I think that I know you wear that as a challenge and something that you've got to overcome. So we appreciate you coming in and talking to us this morning. We'll do it again next week.
All right. Thanks, Mike. See ya.
Thank you, Coach. We appreciate it. There's Coach Carroll. Joins us every day following the Seahawks game, and obviously a lot in there to chat through. Those answers may make some feel good, and I think there's a lot in there to make you positive, and some other things in there that are still going to be frustrating. And we'll get into some of that, of course, over the rest of the week. Jake and Stacy will break some of that down up next. We'll be with you guys tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Matt Hasselbeck with us for the entire 9 o'clock hour, freshly inducted into the Ring of Honor. So we'll talk to Matt about that and a whole lot more. We'll catch you guys at 6. See ya.